KPM.
Hark! Over the roof he makes a pause and growls as if he would fix his claws. Right in the slates and with a huge rattle, drive them down like men in a battle. But let him range round, he does us no harm. We build up the fire, we're snug and warm. Untouched by his breath, see the candle shines bright and burns with a clean and steady light.
You are now watching Upper Form on DidikTV KPM together with me, Sean Stephen, as your host. And for today, we have the lovely teacher or Madam Hoshini that is with us today. Hi, teacher.
Hello.
Hi, Madam Hoshini. How are you doing today?
Hi, thank you, Sean. I'm doing fine.
All right. We also like to introduce our sign language interpreter of today, which is none other than Miss Cathy. Hi, teacher. How are you doing today? Excellent. All right, back to you, Miss or Madam Hoshini. Could you tell us what are we going to focus our lesson on today?
Okay, so today we're going to look at the poem addressed to a child during a boisterous winter evening. It's a mouthful, but we're going to look at the language used in that poem today.
That's right. And we also have our pupils who will be joining us online. Let's see who they are. Hi, everyone. There we go, our bright and beautiful faces that will be joining us. Could you kindly introduce them to all of us?
Yeah, so three of them are from my school. We have Ting from SMK Putri, Aisha Safia.
Hi.
Harsha.
Hello.
And all the way from Kuantan, she's from SMJK Tanah Putih, Sophia.
Hi. All right, are you all prepared and ready for our lesson today? Give me a thumbs up if you are. There we go, looks like everyone is ready. So, shall we begin?
Yeah, sure.
All right, over to you.
Okay, so so this is the poem we're going to do, and it's written by Dorothy Wordsworth. The name might be familiar because she is the sister of William Wordsworth.
Okay.
Okay, and this is the textbook that we are going to use today. For those of you at home, you could flip your page to page 42, right, to get the poem for you.
All right.
Okay, so for those who don't have the poem, this is the poem, right? We're not going to recite it live here, but yeah, you could look at it on page 42, like I said. Okay, now for today, we hope that we'll be able to describe what we think the persona was conveying, identify and list at least two poetic devices used, and describe how poetic devices help explain what the persona is telling us. Now, there are loads of lit devices in this poem itself, but we are only going to focus on two, right? Usually we do it over 2 hours. We only have, this slot. So
yes.
We'll focus on that.
Okay.
Okay, so before we leave, or we take a break, this is what we are going to do. We are going to see how we can interpret the poem. Now, what is really important when we get a piece of poetry is to know how to interpret it. Now, I'm going to ask my poetry geniuses up there to interpret this poem and how they did, do it usually.
Okay.
Now, Ting, how do you usually interpret your poems, especially when we come to class? What do you do?
I read through the whole poem and I find the meaning behind each part.
Okay.
Just trying to interpret it in my own way.
Okay, so do you look at the words or do you look at the whole poem?
Just the whole image is giving us.
Okay, thank you. Sophia, how do you interpret your poems?
Personally, I like to read through to the end first to get a full idea of the big picture of the poem, and then I slice it up one by one.
Okay, awesome. Now, over to Harsha. How do you interpret your poems?
I tend to do a simple glance over and then I go through line by line after I get the whole vibe of the poem.
So you look at it as a whole and then you look at it per line. Is it to find certain elements?
Yes, it's to identify the poetic devices and if there are any keywords that can be picked up later on.
Okay, Aisha, my quiet little poet there. How do you look at the poems when we do it either in class or when you write your own?
I would first read it through just to get the brief idea, and then I would look at each stanza one by one.
Okay, awesome. So basically, we have to look at poems as a whole, right? Then we have to look at it by stanza if you can. That's just to get an idea of it.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you go through line by line. And I think they mentioned how they look for poetic devices. Sometimes they look for issues depending on the poem.
Yes.
Right. So for this poem, we will look at only certain elements, not all. But how we do that, we'll look at it in the next segment.
That's right. So before we continue, we're going to take a short break. Back to you after this on Upper Form on DidikTV KPM.
DidikTV KPM.
Welcome back. You're now watching Upper Form on DidikTV KPM. Our lesson for today is English Literature together with Madam Hoshini. Alright, shall we continue?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Alright.
Okay, so like I mentioned the previous segment, we will be looking at the language of the poem for today.
Okay.
And usually what we do to interpret the poem, I'm just rehashing here, of course, we examine the language used. Now, we can examine it in different levels. Of course, the most important way is through looking at the lit devices or literary devices as well as tone. Now, tone would be perceived in a way how we recite the poem.
Okay.
Right? So what we should do each time we get a piece of poetry is try to sound it out either in your head or if there's no one watching, just try to read it out.
Okay.
Right. So that is for tone. Now, lit devices, because we're going to look at it in depth in a bit, let me explain a bit more about the rhythm, word choices, sound effects.
Okay.
Now, rhythm is basically how you read a poem. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it with a hint of playfulness? There's usually a beat, especially for older poems like the one that we are doing now, addressed to a child during a boisterous winter evening. It's an old poem, and it definitely has a rhyme scheme.
Okay.
Right? So what's the rhyme scheme? We'll look at it in a bit.
Okay.
Right? And it also has sound effects. Now we have a little bit of sound effects in this poem, especially in the way certain sounds are being mentioned. Hark, the alarm bells, right? So it's supposed to give you a sense of how the poem should sound like. What kind of situation is it taking place in? And that is why for today we will be looking at imagery and personification.
Okay.
Now, for this poem, we can't do without personification. Personification is basically when things that are not alive, inanimate, or even sometimes animals are given human qualities.
Okay.
So just to explain a little bit, if you say the dog breathes, it's fine,
Yes.
right? That's not personification.
Correct. Yeah.
But if you say the wind breathes, that's not going to happen.
Correct,
Right? It's just those kind of things. It's like sometimes people get confused. It's like, yes, but the peacock can dance. Yeah, so dancing is not a personification for a peacock. But if it was grass, grass dancing, then that is personification.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So that's for personification. And now let's look at imagery. Imagery is something that all of us do on a daily basis. If you're trying to get someone to imagine something, that's imagery.
Okay.
Right. So now what we do is we try to make something very vivid. We either explain it using words or even sound effects.
All right.
Right? Or trying to make us remember certain sound effects. So it could be like, did you hear the alarm bell in the morning? Right? So it was shrill, it was irritating. So it gives you the mood. It gives you a feeling of what you should feel, or at least what the persona, or basically the poet, is feeling when they read this particular poem.
Okay.
Yeah. So now another thing about imagery is it should appeal to your senses. So a little bit of science here. Every single sense that you have, your sight, your hearing or audio, usually we just call it sound, sound imagery, your touch, whatever you can feel on your skin. Right? So touch, not feeling as in your feelings.
Yep.
That's totally different. That goes with tone. So we have sight, we have sound, we have touch. We also have taste, what you can taste,
Yep.
and of course smell. Now in this poem, there won't be so many, but my girls will take care of that. They'll explain a bit more later on.
Okay.
Or at least I hope they do. Okay, so let's move on. Now, first we'll look at the literary devices in this poem. I'm not going to say it again.
Okay.
It's too long, right? Okay, now we have two stanzas here. Can you point out some of the imagery that you see?
He rides over the water and over the snow, through wood and through vale and over rocky height.
So what kind of imagery do you see here?
Sight.
Okay. Who wants to tell me what kind of imagery is used for sound? Anyone? Imagery for sound.
Yep. Anyone would like to try? You can just raise your hand.
Teacher, can I help?
Okay,
Yes.
yes, Harsha. Maybe in the second stanza?
Then whistle as shrill as the buzzard cock.
Yes, very good. Shrill as a buzzard cock. So buzzard cock, for those who are not sure, it's that rooster thingy
Okay.
on old English buildings which spin around to show the wind direction.
These
Yes.
metal pieces of some sort that shows
Yes.
not south, east, west.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that's that. Okay, who wants to tell me about the imagery? Wait, do I see? Okay, any imagery of what have we missed? Touch here.
Okay. Anyone like to try?
May I answer,
Yes.
teacher?
Yes, please, Aisha.
Imagery of touch.
Yes. Which one are you looking at?
He tosses about in every bare tree.
Okay, so that is in the next stanza. He tosses about. Let's look for he tosses about.
He tosses about.
Can you refresh which stanza you're talking about?
That's in the
Okay,
first
Oh,
Oh
the first
stanza.
one,
yes, so
yes.
sorry.
Maybe we could
I've gone blind.
underline the one as well.
Yeah,
So that we can see that. So
let's
here.
just
Yep.
use that and he tosses about.
Okay. There
So
we go.
this
Yes.
was for touch. Let's just change a different color, yellow, and okay, he writes over water,
Okay.
wood, and this is what Ting gave us just now, and it's for sight,
Okay.
right? So you can imagine what's happening,
All right.
though we can't see the wind.
That's true.
Okay, yes. So, okay, I know I'm using blue, and this is for sound.
Ah, there we go. The word whistle.
Yes. Whistle as shrill as a buzzard cock, right? And is there another one? You could say this one too.
Oh, that's sound as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Ringing,
It's a
ring
small
sharp.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very small one. Ring a sharp alarm. Alarm here again, alarm bells.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, now before we move on, let's see if we can find any personification. Personification, anyone?
Yes. Will anyone of our pupils try out? Or try
May I
answer?
answer this one?
Yes,
Yeah.
please, Sophia.
All right. We actually see personification right in the first line. Every instance where the poem uses the pronoun he to refer to the wind.
Okay, very good. So basically here, the whole poem itself is personification. Let me just...
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So here, the wind, let's just...
I think it's in the first line, is it?
No, I was thinking if there was wind in there, we could
Okay.
just put, here. The
Yeah.
wind is what we refer to as he, and it comes throughout the stanzas.
Yes.
It comes throughout the stanzas, and it's always talking about he.
Yeah.
He as in the wind, and he's given a whole character on his own. Right. Now let's just look at the next few stanzas. Okay. Who wants to go for sight again? Sight? Anyone?
Teacher, can I go?
Yes, Ting.
Teacher, most of this stanza is sight.
When you say this stanza, are you referring to the third stanza or fourth stanza?
A third stanza.
Yeah, so this one here, this is all sight. Okay, we'll just put yellow, never mind.
Oh, wow. Okay, the whole thing.
The whole thing. The whole thing is sight.
Aha.
Okay, is there any images of sight in the fourth stanza?
Anyone would like to try?
We build up the fire, we're snug and warm, untouched by his breath, see the candle shines bright.
Very good. So actually, there are two imageries in these two lines.
Yes.
Who knows what's the other imagery?
A show of hands?
May I, teacher?
Yes, please.
Touch imagery.
Yes, very good. So here, whenever they mention warm, this is touch.
Okay.
And then, of course, another thing. One more. The word here already gives you a clue, and
Okay.
that means what is touching you.
Yep. Anyone would like to try? Anyone? Maybe teacher, you could help us out with that.
Okay, let's play a little bit of hangman.
Okay.
So here, it starts with the letter B.
Starts with the letter B.
Yeah.
Could I say his breath?
Yes, definitely. So now, you're in my class for English literature for sure. Okay, so we have seen these two. Okay, this is quite important. Who can see the imagery for sound here?
I think I spotted, but let's see whether our pupils online have spotted that.
Teacher,
For
may
sound.
I?
Yes.
Harsha.
Harsha.
The second and third line, and growls as if he would fix his claws right in the slates and with a huge rattle.
Exactly. So here is all, it's all sound here.
Yes. All right.
Okay.
All right. So I guess the answers from your students or your pupils are good.
Yes. Awesome job, girls.
Yes.
Now, of course, here, what is one imagery that really stands out?
I think we have time just for
Anyone.
one more. Yes. Anyone like to try?
Anyone could try. Which one do you feel really stands out?
Teacher, may I try?
Yes, Ting.
Sound imagery.
Yes, sound. So you have laugh. What else?
Anyone?
The bell.
Yes.
The 8 o'clock bell.
The 8 o'clock bell.
All right.
Okay, so here we see that there's a lot of imagery.
That's right. Thank you so much, teacher, for that. And of course, well done to all our pupils. Right now, we're going to take a short break. Back to you after this on Upper Form on DidikTV KPM.
DidikTV KPM.
Hi everyone, you are now watching Upper Form on DidikTV KPM together with me, Sean Steven, and also Madam Hoshini for English Literature. Shall we continue?
Yes.
All right, over to you.
Okay, so earlier we saw some imagery and some personification. Now I don't have time to ask them about all the personifications because yeah, it was already, Sophia said it well when she said every time they mention he.
Yes.
Now for those of y'all at home, this is the time to take out your pen, pencil, paper, whatever, and you know, make a note of the imagery of sound, sight, and of course I'll show them the personification as well as imagery of touch.
Okay.
Now, as they have explained earlier, the students, of course, not me, we have for sound, we have ring, a sharp alarm. Now, when you hear this, when you hear it being said in your mind voice or whatever voice you want it to be said in, you should hear a shrill. Of course, now most of us use handphones to wake us up in the morning.
Yep.
But if you have that typical alarm clock that makes you wake up, you know the one.
Oh yes, ding! I can't do that thing, but I can hear it in my head.
It's basically as shrill as a fire alarm.
Yes, it is.
So that's the one. Okay, buzzard cock, I know it's not easy to remember, but they could go back to all those Disney movies with those buzzard cocks there.
Yeah, correct.
Right. Growls, whichever animal that makes you, you know, feel scared, especially when it's dark. Just remind yourself of that animal growling.
Okay.
And of course, right in the slates, this again, we don't have these type of roofs anymore, not much anyway. But the older houses, they have them.
Okay.
Right? Unfortunately, it's not carpentry, so we don't have that.
Yeah.
Okay, now for sight. Sight is actually the easiest imagery to figure out. And here we can see there's nothing to see but a cushion of snow. So here you can just imagine a pile of snow looking like a cushion.
Yes.
Right. Now, heap of dry leaves. Each time it's near Chinese New Year, that's what we get. A heap of dry leaves.
Yeah.
Of course, here it's more towards autumn or even winter.
Yes.
Right. Okay, so that's what we did earlier. and this is for touch. Now, touch is not usually looked at much in this poem, but it's quite important. Like Cushion of Snow, not that important, but especially when it comes to snug and warm, because here it's going back to how the little boy, Edward, might be feeling.
Okay.
So towards the end, they want him to feel snug, they want him to feel warm, and of course a cozy warm house. It's just, you notice that it's in italics.
Yes.
Because it's the wrong spelling for now.
I see.
Yeah, but it's not a new word, it's just cozy, C-O-Z-Y.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably during that time, or maybe not. Okay, so for personification, now this is where I want to ask them. But before that, girls, take a look at the screen, right? What way does he go? Sometimes he'll hide in the cave of a rock, that he's been there and made a great rout over the roof. He makes a pause. He may work his own will. Now you notice that it's always he. Now over to y'all. Who do you think this he is?
The wind.
The wind. Very good. So who is the wind here? Who would like to try?
Teacher, the wind is a destructive force.
Okay, destructive force. Now, remember when we do personification, very good. He is a destructive force. He is the wind. Very good. Now, who do you see as the wind? Put a person there. Just no one famous, yeah? We do not want to be sued.
Anyone
do you all
would like
see?
to try?
May I try?
Yes, Sophia.
Personally, I see a large man, maybe not particularly evil in intention, but definitely clumsy and effective.
Clumsy, okay.
Yes, a clumsy, large man. Okay. Do you think anything would have happened to that man to make him large and clumsy? Or is it just a person who is large and clumsy?
I think it's just force of nature, the way wind is.
Okay, thank you, Sophia. That's a great insight. Now, for those of y'all who have siblings or who look after children, who do you think this he could be?
Okay. I think that's quite a big hint over there.
Yeah.
May I try?
Yes, Aisha.
Maybe an impatient child,
Okay, impatient child. Why do you say impatient child?
because the child is very he doesn't have a motive, if you would say.
Yeah, he doesn't have a motive. It's just like uncontrollable, just like the wind. The wind is something that no one can control.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically here we have just seen how the wind has been given a human quality. But let's face it, the wind is bigger than that.
Oh yes, much bigger.
Definitely bigger. Okay, so that is for the personification. Awesome job.
Yeah.
Right? They have already explained why they think certain things are so.
Okay.
So I think after this, they should think about who else is in this poem.
Okay.
Right? Now I know we are doing mostly imagery, personification. Who do you think this voice belongs to? And maybe we can look at that when we come back.
But I believe we have more. You have more to show on the slides.
Okay, let's just see.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, now before we, I mean, of course, they need to look at the slides to see where the personification, the imagery was.
Okay.
Now, do you all see any other lit devices here before you think about who the persona is, to help you all, give others an insight about how to look at this poem? So the first two stanzas, any other lit devices you see?
Teacher, may I try?
Yes, Ting.
I see simile
Okay,
in the
simile.
second stanza and the fourth line.
Okay, let's look at this. Give it a red color. Second stanza, fourth line, right?
Round
Okay.
as a pillow.
Now, who can tell me what simile is?
Teacher.
Yes, Asha.
It's a comparison to something in real life.
Very good. So here, the round is a pillow, whiter than milk. So who is being compared here? Where do we have to look? Do we look above or below?
Above.
Yes. So, which word? Who are we talking about? Not the
The cushion of snow.
Yes, cushion of snow. Sorry for that. That little bit of smudge. Right. So here we can see that the cushion of snow is being compared to a pillow as well as the color.
Okay.
Right. And this actually highlights what? What does it highlight? When we look at in terms of imagery, what does it highlight? Imagery of?
And I would like to try. Oh, sorry.
Touch. Okay, touch in terms of the pillow. Okay, very good.
Sight.
Sight in terms of the
Round as a pillow.
round as
And
a
white.
pillow. Yes, and whiter than milk. So here you can see that though they find the simile, it's still being brought back to the imagery. Right? So this usually happens. There are times where we'll be underlining more and more, and sometimes one line will have so many poetic devices. Okay, anyone who wants to look at, say, okay, never mind, I'll leave it to you girls. Which poetic device would you like to highlight next?
Teacher, may I try?
Yes, Aisha.
In the first stanza, first line, what way does the wind come? It's alliteration.
Okay, so basically, alliteration is a repetition of a word, or not exactly a word, a sound. So, Aisha, can you tell them what sound is being repeated?
The word W.
Yeah, the word W, the letter W or the sound W, right? So what way does the wind come? What way does he go? Okay, now there's a clue there. There's something being, they are trying to make you imagine something here. What can you imagine from W sound? Who wants to try?
Teacher, the whooshing sound of wind.
Yes, very good.
Well
The
done.
whooshing sound of wind.
Yeah.
Wah, right? So it already gives you an imagination of, okay, this is going to be about the wind. And just in case no one has heard of the wind or have no idea because they do not live in windy places, you get an idea from the sound.
I see.
Right. So we have that. Okay, other than alliteration.
May I?
Yes, Sophia.
In stanza 3, line 5,
Okay, let's.
heaven
let's
grant that he spare but that one upright twig. That
Okay.
is hyperbole, and I believe it's used for comedic effect.
Yes, it's kind of funny. Heaven grant that he spared that one upright twig. Right? Very good. So other than the comedic effect, what else does it make you imagine? Sophia?
It gives the reader a sense of how severe the destruction is made by the wind.
Exactly. And the fact that, you have, an orchard and only one upright twig. So yes, and like she mentions, hyperbole. Hyperbole is basically when someone exaggerates.
Yeah.
But then again, after seeing some of the storms lately, yes, it's not so much of an exaggeration, but it gives you an idea how bad the wind is.
Yes.
I think in Malaysia, we would have been evacuated.
Most probably, yeah.
Yeah. So here when he says, heaven grant that he spare but that one upright twig, let's just put an arrow for Not easy to write with your
Hyperbole?
finger.
Okay.
Yes, hyperbole. That's another a joke that we usually share. Hyperbole, because things which is a lot, and then you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's an easy way to remember certain things. Like imagery, it's easy because imagination, that's fine.
Yes.
For hyperbole, you have that. Personification, again, how do you remember that, girls? How do you remember what personification means?
I see.
Teacher, may I try?
Yeah, we go.
Yes, Ting.
When something is given the quality of a human.
Yeah, so in what part of the word personification do you see something human?
Person at the front.
Yes, very good. So, in fact, these techniques or these lit devices, I know they sound so difficult, but it's easy when you find little clues like this. All right, now let's look at the last stanza. Any other lit device that you see other than imagery or say personification?
Would anyone like to try?
Maybe comparison.
Comparison to?
In the second stanza, it's compared to snow is compared to
Okay, so
pillow to a pillow.
Yes. So simile again, it's something like comparison, right? So we can see that here. Nothing but we see cushion of snow, round as a pillow. So here you are explaining comparison.
All right, looks like our pupils online did a very good job, and I think they deserve a break. How about we take a short break? Back to you after this on Upper Form on DidikTV KPM.
DidikTV KPM.
And welcome back. You're now watching Upper Form on DidikTV KPM. Our lesson for today is English Literature with Madam Hoshini. All right, Madam, let's
Yes.
continue.
Okay, sure. So before this, we did imagery, we did personification, and right now let's go into personification in depth.
All right.
Right. Now, remember, girls, when you mentioned that the wind reminds you of people? Just nod. Right? Okay. So, can you remember what you mentioned earlier? Who does the wind represent?
Yes,
A
anyone like to
toddler?
try? Yes.
Sorry, Ting?
A toddler, a small child.
Okay, a small child. Do you see the evidence in either stanza 1 or stanza 2?
In stanza 1,
Yes?
the child is kind of hyperactive. He tosses about in every bare tree.
Okay, very good. So let's look at this. He tosses about. Oops. Let's see. Okay. Okay, he tosses about in every bare tree. Here you mentioned that he is feeling restless, right?
Yes.
Restless toddler. Okay, restless toddler. Okay, is there any mention of how the guy is a big, clumsy man in these two stanzas?
May I?
Yes, Sophia.
I think I definitely see it in the line, he rides over water up until which the goat cannot climb. That to me the image of a big man comes to mind, one that's definitely disoriented in his direction.
Very good. So big man. Okay, so you mentioned disoriented. Why do you think he's disoriented? Could there be a reason?
There could be a reason. He might be drunk, he might be tired.
Okay.
But what this poem focuses on is not really the origin of the disorientation, but the results of it.
Yes, very good. So here it doesn't matter why he was disorientated, but yes, he definitely seems disoriented. He is definitely clumsy. He is definitely big. Could you say that he was strong? Is there any evidence of a strong? Okay, where?
Definitely.
Where?
And crack the branches and strewn them about.
Okay, so that is, let's see, which stanza is that?
Stanza 3.
Okay. For a minute, I thought I forgot how to read. Okay, so crack the branches and strewn them about. Here, basically, it's strong. Now, when you say this, okay, you are also trying to put a quality to the wind. He's strong, right? It also reminds you of a big giant, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's like crack the branches. You can almost see all those action movies where this big strong man is breaking things about. Okay, now, is there any evidence? I remember someone mentioning that the poem also reminds them of a child. Do you remember which line has that?
May I, teacher?
Yes, yes, Aisha. But please tell me which stanza first.
Stanza, the fourth stanza.
Okay, fourth stanza.
In the line, but let him range around, he does us no harm.
Okay, so why do you think this is a child?
Because in this line, I think the person behind it is saying like he is allowed to express themselves as long as they do not harm others.
Very good. So usually children, as long as they are not fighting with their siblings, they get to hopefully self-express and be themselves, of course. Okay, is there any evidence of it being a messy toddler or a messy person?
Yes, teacher.
Yes, Harsha, which stanza?
Stanza 3.
Okay, stanza 3.
In the line, and crack the branches and strewn them about, we can see that the wind has thrown all its toys or branches all around the place after it's done with it.
Very good. Awesome, Harsha. So here, especially the phrase thrown them about, it's just like the word that sounds like thrown. Right?
Yes.
So basically, he just shows that, okay, this guy is super messy, or maybe it's a girl,
Yep.
right? Super messy, just in case, right? But he did say he here. Okay, now, what kind of person do you think it represents, the wind represents, especially in the lines, let's see, growls as he would fix his claws right in the slates and with a huge rattle. There are two possibilities. Let's see if we can look for one.
That's in paragraph 4, right?
Yes, in stanza 4.
Okay.
Teacher, would it be referring to some kind of a winged beast?
A wind beast. Okay.
Or a bird?
Okay, a big bird or a beast. So, especially when it comes to growls, right? So let's look at that and we put beast.
Because I don't think a bird growls. I haven't come across one.
Unless we watch Harry Potter. And I know a few of them here are Harry Potter fans.
I see. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, what about huge rattle. That's a big clue there. Who wants to try?
May I?
Yes, Sophia.
I always read that as thunder.
Okay, thunder. But when you look at huge rattle, what do you think of? Who do you think of?
The wind.
The wind. Okay. If it was a person?
A baby's rattle.
Yes, very good. So basically, now for those without babies at home, especially if the child is unhappy, the child is going to make a lot of noise. It's almost thundering to your ears.
Oh, yes.
So yes, so she got it right. It is this almost like with the sound of thunder.
Yep.
Right? And yes, of course the child has rattles, and usually some children, some babies tend to throw their toys about, or they know which exact toy makes the worst noise. You're right. So
Yes.
of course here rattle. I don't know why people gift babies rattle. Seriously don't. Okay. Now, is there any part in this poem that makes you feel comfortable, that makes you feel safe in these two stanzas?
I see it, but let's see if the pupils see
yeah, stanza 3 and 4. There's one part that kinds of makes you feel safe.
it. Yes. And comfortable, I might add.
Yes.
The ending part of stanza 4, teacher.
Very good. The ending part. So here, I'm touched by his breath, and candle shines bright, burns with a clear, steady light. So here, when you see the word light, it makes you feel safe. Now, what makes you feel secure, makes you know that it's comfortable?
The line, we're snug and warm.
Yes,
Yes.
we are snug and warm. Now, of course, here we are not looking at just the wind, we are looking at someone else. Who do you think we are looking at here? Who else is
Teacher,
there?
may I try?
Yes, Aisha.
Can we say a mother?
Yes, a mother or a person who takes care of, well, maybe the young child here. Okay, snug and warm. So, would you be saying that this poem is probably written by a mother? Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to say that yes, definitely she thinks that this poem's probably written from a mom's point of view.
All right. Thank you so much, teacher, for that. And also, we'd like to ask, because we're coming towards the end of our lesson, so far, how well did the students or our pupils do? Those who are online.
I think they did an awesome job, right? They have been looking at things that was not highlighted, especially, and I think that's really good. And hopefully they remember all of this, and yeah, and I hope they have shared enough with the rest of them behind the TV screens.
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
And for those of them watching at home right now, if they would like to get the enhancement exercises or the sources for this lesson, from where can they get it?
They can try the Delima portal.
Yep.
Right, so they can look at Pelantar Delima KPM, right? Don't just put Delima, you'll just get some fruits. Okay. So look at Delima KPM and get your materials from there.
All right, and also could you kindly recap of what you have taught so far today?
Okay, sure, why not? Let's look at, okay, so they have mentioned who the person is, right? This is for personification. And they even mention who is the persona, which is a mother or a person looking after the child. Now, in word terms or in what we have achieved today, we have looked at imagery and personification used throughout the poem. We have looked at the persona, and we have looked at how language and literary devices breathe life into mere words.
Yes.
So it's really important to look at interpretations based on lit devices, but always remember this literature, it reflects our life.
All right, thank you once again, Madam Hoshini, for our lesson for today. For those of you watching at home, hopefully it's been beneficial to all of you, and we'll see you in our next class. Till then, take care and bye!
What way does the wind come? What way does he go? He rides over the water and over the snow, through wood and through vale, and over rocky height, which the goat cannot climb, takes his sounding flight. He tosses about in every bare tree, as if you look up, you plainly may see. But how he will come and whither he goes, there's never a scholar in England knows.
As soon as this daylight tomorrow, with me you shall go to the orchard, and then you will see that he has been there, and made a great rout, and cracked the branches, and strewn them about. Heaven grant that he spare but that one upright twig, that looked up at the sky so proud and big, all last summer. As well you know, studded with apples, a beautiful show.
Books have we to read, but that half-stifled knell, alas, 'tis the sound of the 8 o'clock bell. Come, now we'll to bed, and when we are there he may work his own will, and what shall we care? He may knock at the door, we'll not let him in, may drive at the windows, we'll laugh at his din. Let him seek his own home wherever it be. Here's a cozy, warm house for Edward and me.